Hello, it's me, Covey, with another personal spin. This is the next part of my special ultra-long videos about my CD collection. We're on section B now, and as you can see, I've got a lot in the B section, more than in the A and numbers section. In the background music we have White Skull. They're a really cool band that I listened to last night. They're like a power metal-y, sort of heavy metal-y band. And yeah, as I did yesterday, I have a listening pile that I will add to as I go through everything. And let's get started. Oh, I am going to talk a little bit slower this time, so be prepared for a slightly longer video. I'm also not naked this time. Right, let's begin, shall we? First up, we have Black Lace with their album Unlaced. These are a female-fronted heavy metal band. This is actually a double album on one disc. It is from Russia. It's on CD Maximum, so it's only supposed to be sold in Russia. So I'm not sure how it managed to get here, but it's cool. It is what it is. I'm not going to complain. It's cool. I haven't actually listened to it yet, so I can't tell you anything about it, because it only arrived in the post 2 days ago, and it came with a whole box of CDs, so I'm still listening to them. So that will be listened to fairly shortly. It looks pretty good, actually. Yeah. Next up, we have Bloodbound's newest album, which is called, what is it called? Rise of the Dragon Empire. I'm not sure if it's a concept album or not, but quite a number of the songs reference things from Game of Thrones. So they got a song called Balerion, Blackwater Bay, and there's a couple of other songs like Slayer of Kings. I think they sort of reference Game of Thrones, so I think it might be a concept album about Game of Thrones, but I'm not entirely sure. Bloodbound are pretty cool. This is a pretty good album. It's quite a mid-paced power metal album, but they're really catchy songs and they're really memorable. They've just got some really... They're kind of like Sabaton. They've just... Every song is really catchy. And what's cool about this is it has a DVD as well with a live gig on it, which I haven't actually watched yet. So I need to watch that soon. So that's their new album. Right. What's next? I think we'll do this pile here first, because it's kind of in the screen, and then I can get a bit closer. Next up, we have this live CD of BB King, live at the Regal. This is a good little CD. BB King is an awesome guitarist. It's a shame is he dead? I'm sure he died fairly recently, last couple of years. He plays all the songs on his guitar, which is known as Lucille. It's a good little album. It's a good live album. There's a good atmosphere to it as well. And some really good playing. I'm trying to remember which songs were the ones I really liked, because I haven't listened to it for a while. I think Woke Up This Morning and You Upset Me Baby are the two ones that I really liked. But it's a good little album. It's well worth checking out if you like blues anyway. Next we have Bon Iver. The album is called For Emma Forever Ago. I believe he recorded this in a shack somewhere in a forest or something. It's very minimalistic, sort of acoustic music. Found it quite interesting, but I didn't enjoy it all that much. So, yeah, it might need another listen. So I'm going to add it to the pile. Yeah, Beck Odelay. This is featured in many lists in magazines that are like the best albums that you must own and stuff. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a try. I bought it and I was really disappointed. I liked the fact that it was experimenting, but I felt it was really disjointed and not all that good, to be honest. So I'm glad I only paid like 50p for it. And then the next band is is The Beautiful South with their album Quench. I bought this for £1 from Poundland. I really like The Beautiful South. I don't know what it is about them. They just seem to write really good songs. Why are we getting loads of... There we go. That'll do. This one is not my favourite album by them, but I have quite a number of their albums. I'm going to add this to my listening pile because I don't think I've listened to it for a long time. I think it needs listening to. Next we have another classic album, The Black Crowes, Shake Your Money Maker. This is just a great rock album from the early 90s. You can't really go wrong with it. It's just solid, really enjoyable, simple songs, nothing's too complicated, nothing's too dark or anything like that. It's just really good. And it was also on the list of albums that everybody should own and stuff, along with this album, Wake Up by the Boo Radleys. I bought this really cheap, which is why the case is broken. Can you even see it? Yeah, you can. Yeah, it's a good album. Good little rocky indie sort of something like that album. Where should we go next? I'm going to sneeze. There we go. Excuse me. Next up we have Fever by Bullet for My Valentine. Now a lot of people by this point were just saying, oh, they suck and oh, it's rubbish and oh, they're nothing like the old band's albums. But I quite like it. I mean, it's not as like all out metal, and it's a bit more sort of like hard rocky. I consider it sort of their Black Album by Metallica, to be honest. My mum quite liked it. My mum's got good taste. So it is a bit more commercial and a bit more accessible, but I think in some ways that makes it more enjoyable. In some ways it's an easier listen. So it's a good album. It's a good album. Not their best, but it is good. Next we have Barclay James Harvest once again. These guys are a British prog band. I think they're British. Oh, I don't know if they are British. It comes with more bonus tracks than actual tracks on the album, which is a bit annoying, to be honest. They're quite airy, fairy, light and fluffy. Not really sure what I was trying to explain there, but they're very keyboardy and it's very like... I quite like it though, the bass playing is quite good. So there's always that. Being a bassist myself, I do enjoy a good bit of bass playing. Next up, we have my favourite Black Sabbath album, Master of Reality. It's got Sweet Leaf on it, Children of the Grave, Into the Void, Orchid, which is, I believe, the name of a band who were inspired by them as well. Basically every song on the album is great, and there's only 8 of them. So good, in fact, I bought it on vinyl as well. It's really good, even if the front cover is a bit simple. Next we have something I picked up from Oxfam. There's something about it that just appealed to me. It's a band called Black Grape, and the album is called It's Great When You're Straight. Yeah. It's kind of like party rock music, for want of a better word. Very upbeat. It's quite fun. I think you're supposed to be like high on drugs when you listen to it, but I quite enjoyed it. And it was only 99p, which for you, for my friends, listeners, viewers in America, that's probably about 50 cents-ish, give or take. It changes every day these days. Next we have Giant Steps by the Boo Radleys. This album I actually think is slightly better than Wake Up. Don't really know why. I think I just know this one better. Although I always struggle to read the songs on the back. I mean, if you can see them, you can tell me the names. So I don't really know the names of any of the songs because I can't read them. So for future reference, they might want to redesign the back cover so you can read the names. Case is a little bit broken, but this is a really good album. If you can find it, buy it, because it's really good. It's not rare, I don't think, so you will find it if you look for it. But I mean, if you're interested, definitely worth a go. Next up, we have the Bouncing Souls self-titled album, The Bouncing Souls. These guys are awesome. They're a punk rock, pop-punk sort of band. They're on Epitaph, so they're that kind of thing. Quite humorous. They have a song on this album called The Toilet Song, which is just about, basically just goes, who's going to throw the toilet? Who's going to throw the toilet on the roof? It's got Kate is Great on it, Say Anything, Cracked, Chunk Song, and a bunch of others that are really cool. Shark Attack, it's a really cool short song at the end. Yeah, it's a good little album, although I think they made better albums later on, including this one, which is actually slightly interesting because it's an enhanced CD, but I've never put it in my computer. It's got a video on it. This has got Kids and Heroes, Sing Along Forever, Born Free, Inside Out, Simple Man, I Get Lost, Anchors Away, Todd's Song. So like at least half of the songs are really, really like good songs. This is one of their sort of later albums. It is really good. Bouncing Souls are a great band, a really great band. I want more of their stuff. I do have a few other albums somewhere, but we'll get to those at some point. Next we have Puzzle by Biffy Clyro. Biffy Clyro are a good band. They're an interesting band because their early albums, they were like really sort of like metal. They even screamed on some of their earlier albums, which was quite interesting. And then they sort of dropped all that and they went much more commercial by this album. But it's a good sort of commercial, sort of like the songs are good. They still got really quite technical guitar work sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. And they're just a really good band. Biffy Clyro are great. Feeling a little bit lightheaded, so I'm going to get a drink. Not been feeling well the last couple of days. Ambulance. Could be a police car. Right, so next up we have Ben's Brother Battling Giants. This is one of those ones where it's just appeared in my collection. I have no idea where it's come from. This happens from time to time. People come around with a CD and they leave it, or I pick it up for really cheap and then forget I've bought it. So I've not actually listened to it, but it looks quite good. The album is called Battling Giants. So I might give that a try. I'm going to add that to my listening pile, which is actually really huge. I should have moved the A section yesterday and I didn't. Next up we have Borknagar, Universal. These guys started off as a really, really black metal band, and then they sort of added melody and folk stuff, and then they sort of dropped the folk stuff and just went with melodic black metal, and then they kind of ended up sort of dropping the black metal almost. But this album's still pretty heavy. I can't get a good picture on it. They've actually got a new album coming out this year, I believe. I don't know what it's called, so I can't tell you. It's very good. It's good stuff. Oh, it's really bad that I can't get a good picture. Too much light in here. I wonder if I can... let me just see if I can put the torch on. No, I can't. Right, we'll have to just make do. Next up, we have the Blue Tones with Expecting to Fly. These are a sort of mid-90s pop rock group. You know, they're not particularly... They're not like the most amazing band in the world, but they're not awful either. Kind of a bit like the Beautiful South, only I prefer the Beautiful South. I think they're a bit more country. There's a little bit more of a country twinge to these guys. I think because they're American. I think Beautiful South are American actually as well, but I'm not sure. I've never been sure where they're from, but I like them. So next we have a childhood favourite, and you probably laugh at this, but as far as I'm concerned, there's no such thing as a guilty pleasure, and that is Bewitched's debut album, self-titled. I actually went out and looked for this to buy it because I missed Blame It on the Weatherman song, and I wanted to listen to it, and I picked it up for £1. So it's a good little album. You can't go wrong with it. It's happy. It reminds me of happy times. Although I did actually use my hamster as a tissue, my sister's hamster as a tissue, when my hamster died, and we played Blame It on the Weatherman, which is why I missed the song, and I was crying a lot, and I used it as a tissue to wipe my snot away. This is like 20 plus years ago. So next we have Brad Paisley, Wheelhouse. This album's interesting because he starts experimenting with things on this one. So he got quite a few guest artists, including, is it this one? I think he's got a few rappers on this one. He's got Eric Idle for the song "Death of a Married Man," and he's just, it's a country album, but he does start experimenting with like rap and other sort of cabaret music and things like that. It's not my favourite album by him, but I do quite like it. I think some of his earlier albums are better, and his newest one is quite good as well. Here we go. Biffy Clyro, Infinity Land. This I got from the library for about 25p. It contains no such thing as a jaggy snake. Need I say no more? Because he screams, "Waka! Yeah." So different to what most people would know Biffy Clyro for, to be honest. Next we have Volume 4 by Black Sabbath. This has got Supernaut and Snowblind on it, and Changes, although I'm not a huge fan of the song Changes. It's good, but it got overplayed when Kelly did a cover of it. This is quite good because it's quite trippy. They're obviously on a lot of LSD by this point, and cocaine, who knows what else, and it shows in the music. But it also gives the music a change without changing their core sound, if that makes sense. They start experimenting with guitar effects and things like that. And plus, guitar effects had started to become a thing that existed by 1972, so it's a good album. Not my favourite, but it's a good album. Next we have Born of Osiris. This is A Higher Place. Again, I have no idea where this actually came from. I didn't buy it, I can tell you that much. It's just appeared in my collection. And I like death metal, but I'm very picky with it, so I'm not sure if I ever would have bought it. Certainly not at full price. But I listen to it and I actually quite enjoy it. So I'm quite glad it appeared in my collection, because it's one of those ones I probably never would have discovered otherwise. Oh no, it's the other one. I've got two, both of which I have no idea where it came from. It's been a while since I listened to it, so I can't really. But it's like technical death metal. It's good. I think, if I remember correctly, there's a little bit of melody in there as well, too, like keyboards or something. But I can't remember because I haven't listened to it for a while, so I might add that to my listening pile, which is now so big I'm going to have to make a new one. Next we have Bush. This is just regular like rock, really. It's not really my sort of thing. It's okay, I enjoy it occasionally, but it's not something I'll put on regularly or like choose to listen to. Yeah. Right, what else have we got here? These are some of my newer albums, so I'm not hugely familiar with them. But we have my one and only Blind Guardian album, and it's Nightfall in Middle-earth. This is the super duper double disc remix and original CD version, so you get the album twice. It's a pretty good album, actually. It went really fast, considering there's 22 songs on it. Thorn was a particular song I quite liked, and The Elder, 2 songs back to back. I'll be honest though, I'm not sure if I prefer the remix or the original. So I might listen to them side by side at some point, and I really like that album artwork, and the actual booklet inside is really good as well. So I would like to get more of these at some point, and they're relatively cheap as well. £10 isn't too bad. Next, I got something I've been after for a long time, but just never got round to buying, and that is The Fathomless Mastery by Bloodbath. I literally only wanted it because it has members of Opeth in it, including Mikkel Ochefeld. This is like some sort of super version with a little papery thing on the side, which I've actually kept on. Normally I'd remove them, but I'm going to keep this one on. I have to say though, actually, I wasn't as impressed with it as I thought. I listened to it sort of 2 or 3 times in a row, and it was good. There were some catchy moments in it, but it wasn't quite as thingy as I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be a little bit more like Opeth, and it wasn't. I thought it was going to be like Opeth, but without all the acoustic stuff and without all the proggy bits. I suppose it is in some ways, but I don't know. It didn't have as many catchy riffs as I thought it was going to have. But it's still pretty good. I'm going to listen to it some more and really digest it. But not yet, so it's not going in the listening file. Next we have Between the Buried and Me's double album, Automata 1 and Automata 2. I actually prefer Automata 2 just a little bit. It's just a little bit more experimental, but part 1 is a little bit more sort of traditional Between the Buried and Me. So it depends what you're after. If you want a new sound, go for part 2. If you want a more traditional Between the Buried and Me, get part 1. That said, on the back of part 2 it actually lists the songs as 7, 8, 9 and 10, so you are supposed to listen to them together. Yeah, I quite like the album cover as well, it's interesting. So yeah, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I like Between the Buried and Me. Next we have Bullet for My Valentine's newest album, Gravity. It's okay. There seemed to be a spate in the late 2018 of bands, sort of more mainstream bands, releasing really sort of different albums to what they normally release, and while that is a good thing, a lot of them were really like electronical and sort of went for the hard rock electronic sound. And yeah, although that said, some of the songs are quite catchy, so it's quite good if you take it on its own. But if you compare it to the rest of the discography and how the band normally sound, it's not them, it's too different, it's a little bit too different for me, but it's not bad. I wouldn't recommend this to begin with though, and I quite like the wing design on the front, so it's not all bad, but it could have been better. There could have been ways of introducing that electronic sound or whatever they were trying to get, while still retaining sort of more of that oomph that they normally have. Next we have one of, in my opinion, the most underrated bands in music history, and that is Byzantine, or Byzantine. I'm inclined to say Byzantine, but I do believe it's actually pronounced Byzantine. This is the album Fundamental Component. I can never remember which is the first album, which is the second album, because I've got them all, because they're fucking amazing. These guys are just phenomenal. They're like a groove metal, prog metal band. Great guitaring, great bassing, great drumming, great vocals. They roar, they growl, they sing, everything. Absolutely every kind of thing you can think of. They got technical riffs, chuggy riffs, groovy riffs, thrashy riffs, just everything. And pretty much every single bit is just amazing. Very underrated band. They should be like huge. Next we have Bellacore. These guys are a melodic death metal band. I really like the guitar playing in this particular album anyway. It's very, very melodic, but also very heavy. It's quite crushingly so, in fact. I have 2 of their albums. This one is called Stone's Reach. This is my favourite of the 2 that I have. And it's just really good. And the drums as well, they just go with it really well. Next we have Breakbeat Era. Is it called Break? I'm not even sure what it's called, but it's Ultra Obscene by Breakbeat Era. I thought it was Breakbeat Chaos, but it's a drum and bass album. There's lots of bass and drums in it. It's not liquid funk, which is my preferred style, so it's a little bit like but it's quite good. It's quite good. Not sure where I got it from, but it's quite good. Next we have Barenaked Ladies, another one of these sort of unoffensive pop rock bands that I really quite like, along with The Beautiful South. This is the album Gordon. I got it from the library. I am thinking of rebuying this if I can find it really cheap, because it's not in the best condition, and it wouldn't surprise me if it doesn't actually play properly anymore. Although it did rip the other day, but there's a nice little scratch in it there. So I wouldn't mind buying it again. This is a good little album. It has If I Had $1 Million on it, and Mayoko Ono and Brian Wilson. So it's got 3 or 4 hits on it and a bunch of other ones. I think they've got better albums though. Next we have Ben Howard, Every Kingdom. He's a good acoustic singer-songwriter dude. Old Pine is a great song, and The Wolves. He has an EP that I'd love to get hold of. But the 2 albums are pretty good. He might have 3 now, I don't know, I don't really keep up with him. But I do like him. He's good for, you know, relaxing too. He's quite relaxing. I'm going to take some from this tall shelf here now. Before I continue, I'm going to have another drink. Remember, if you want to comment on anything, just leave a comment and I'll keep an eye on it. If you have an opinion about a particular album, I'd love to hear it. If you think it's rubbish or good or anything like that. If you think I'm missing something that I should desperately have, let me know. Maybe I'll get it. In fact, I quite likely will get it. But, you know, that sort of thing. If there's some information I got wrong, let me know. Because I don't remember everything that I read. And quite often I get it wrong. I remember it wrong and things like that. So, yeah. Let's continue, shall we? Next we have Bombay Bicycle Club, Floors. This is kind of a mini album rather than a full-on album. It contains acoustic covers of their own songs from previous albums. So it's kind of a stopgap album, really. That said, it's really nice to hear some of these songs acoustically. Floors, for one. Dust on the Ground is another good one. Ivy and Gold. Yeah. Oh, the disc is a bit loose. There we go. It's a good little album. I quite like them. I need more. Next we have Becoming the Archetype. This album is called The Physics of Fire. They're a progressive metal band. They're quite heavy. But they're mostly just keyboards, not keyboards, guitars rather than keyboards. A lot of prog metal bands have keyboards and stuff, and if I remember correctly, I haven't listened to it for a while, it's mostly just guitars. I suppose I could always look inside. I'm going to drop them if I'm not careful. But yeah, it's quite good. It's quite good. Definitely worth a check out. Next we have Beartooth, Disgusting. I'm not really sure what to think of this band. From what I haven't really, I've listened to it once or twice, and nothing's ever really stuck. I guess they're just not really my sort of thing. Despite that, I do actually have their next album as well, but not the newest album. Maybe I'm going to add that to my listening pile. Maybe I just need to listen to it closer. I don't know. They just didn't quite, you know, gel with my head or whatever. Next we have Blues Traveller. I think this is just called Blues Traveller. I got this because But Anyway is on a film called The Kingpin. No, it's just called Kingpin. It's about an Amish guy who goes 10-pin bowling. And it finishes with this song, and it's really catchy. I literally bought that, and then the rest of the album is great. They're really good. Bass playing is great. You've got really nice guitar playing, really crisp drum sound that goes really well with the bass playing, and really good singer as well. I wouldn't mind some more, but they're quite hard to find. Well, not on the internet, but not sure which albums to get. So maybe someone can suggest another album to get, perhaps. Next we have Blue Cheer, Vincebus Eruptum. These guys are named after a brand of LSD. Arguably one of the first heavy metal bands. They have a great cover of Summertime Blues. It's a really short album, and it's also really quiet. I know I've gone a lot about the loudness war, but this is like the quiet war. They didn't compress it at all, I don't think. So I had it on my MP3 player once when I was on my bike, and I didn't even realise it was playing. It was that quiet. It's pretty good though. It's considered a classic album, so yeah, it's good. Next, I bought this from Oxfam. It's Boy and Bear, Harlequin Dream. I literally only bought it because of the album cover. Just love the fact it's got loads of animals at a fair. And it's got a lion with a gun, which I think looks cool. It's actually really good though. It's kind of like folky pop stuff, but I quite like it. It's quite good. I've listened to it a good number of times. My favourite song, I think, is Harlequin Dream, which is the title track. What? The three-headed woman. But yeah, it's a good album. Next we have Bloodthorn with their album Genocide. These guys are from the box set, which I previously mentioned in the last video. It's a big, massive box set of like 150 plus albums that I bought for £36 on eBay from a record company that I think had gone bust, and they were just getting rid of all their stock. This is really, really heavy. Features a German on the back throwing a Stielhandgranat, which is indicative of how heavy it is. Yeah, it's quite good. I prefer a bit more melody, to be honest. Next we have this classic Bowling for Soup album. This one is A Hangover You Don't Deserve. It's got such epic songs as Ridiculous, Ohio, Come Back to Texas, 1985, Trucker Hat, Almost, A-Hole, Really Might Be Gone. I grew up with this, so yeah, it's a really good album. I even saw them live, I think on that tour as well. No, it would have been the tour after that. Next we have Bouncing Souls Gold record. This one's quite good because they tried some slightly newer things, like they had an accordion, an acoustic song, and things like that. They've got 2 covers on this album, Lean on Sheena and what's the other one called? I can't remember. Midnight Mile, the new thing. Letter from Iraq, I think, is the other cover. It's really good. I really like So Jersey, Sounds of the City, Pizza Song, Better Things, and For All the Unheard, which is a tribute to all the songs that never get released. And I wrote, "This belongs to Cubby" on the front. Next we have Burn the Priest, which is Lamb of God, before they were known as Lamb of God. It even explains it on this sticker here. It's good. It's very raw though. Okay. That was my mum. Yeah, it's good. I wish you hadn't said that. Next we have Bright Eyes, I'm Wide Awake, It's Morning. These are pretty cool. They're quite weird and interesting, but it's quite good. He does a lot of like talky singing, which I quite like. Yeah, my mum quite liked it as well. And the album cover's a bit weird because it's just like a drawn picture with like a, I don't know what that is supposed to be. I always thought it was tomato, but I don't think it is. Who knows? Next we have Behemoth or Behemoth, depending on how you want to pronounce it. This is The Satanist. This is probably, I want to be a bit controversial here and say it's probably their most famous album, their biggest album, their most commercial, their most popular album, their best-selling album perhaps. I don't know. It's the only album of theirs that I own, and I really like it. It's a black metal or black and death metal, sort of somewhere in between those two release. Yeah, starts off with the epic Play Your Trumpets for Gabriel track. Yeah, it's good. Next we have this awesome classic album, the Freewheeling Bob Dylan. I actually prefer the other one of his I've got called Bob Dylan, but this is still pretty good. It's got Blown in the Wind, Masters of War, Hard Rains Are Gonna Fall, and a bunch of others too. It's just Bob and his guitar. It's pretty cool. Right, let's take some from here. Next up, we have Bullet for My Valentine's debut album, The Poison. This is my favourite album of theirs. Although it's not the first album I got of theirs, I got The Scream first. It's very commercial, isn't it? Let's be honest. But it's bands like this that allow other bands that are less commercial to exist, according to Roadrunner, who signed Nickelback and then said the reason Nickelback exists is because the money they bring into the record label allows them to sign less commercial bands and give them a chance to be heard and stuff like that. And I agree with that. So I don't really have a problem with mainstream bands that a lot of elitists seem to have a problem with, as long as it's good. And it is good. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. There's some really good guitar playing in it, some good bassing and drumming, some catchy songs like Tears Don't Fall, and some just really heavy songs as well. Like, actually all these things I hate revolve around. It isn't that heavy, but it's quite you know, it's catchy. It's good. I like it. Next we have Blink-182, Cheshire Cat. I think this is their debut album. It's got Carousel on it. This is pretty good because they do a lot more stuff with the bass guitar on this one. Yeah. It's good. I like them. It's when they were fun as well. Next we have Between the Buried and Me's album, The Great Misdirect, and I threw the plastic thing that came over the cover out because it was really annoying. So it has, the front cover is this aerial view of a street in what I would consider probably to be Florida, but I don't really know because I'm not from America. This has the bonus disc which concludes the making of the album, which is really interesting, but it also contains 5-in-1 surround sound version of the album, which I'm never going to use, but it's fine, and it also contains the actual album. Unfortunately, because I threw the plastic thing out, it doesn't have the track list on it, so all I can tell you really is it's really good. It's proggy, it's Between the Buried and Me, and it's good. Yep. Music from Big Pink, by the band. This is the remastered version, which contains almost as many tracks as the actual album. Again, that's cool, but I wish they put it on a different disc because it kind of upsets the thingy of the album. For me, an album is a piece of art, and you're supposed to listen to the album how the artist intended. And you know, bonus stuff is great because it allows you to get like a behind the scenes and things of the album. But I wish they put it on a different disc. Obviously, that costs more money, so I understand why they don't. And I can always just, you know. So when I rip it and put it on my MP3 player, I generally don't put the outtakes on unless I particularly like an outtake, or I do it accidentally. But this is a good little album. It's a fun little album, and I like the cover as well. It's very, well, I'd say exotic looking because it's got an elephant on the front and a double bass looking thing, and it's just a good picture. It's a good album as well. It's kind of like electronic Bob Dylan, because I suppose they were his backing band, but it's not quite Bob Dylan. Next we have Bob Marley and the Wailers, Exodus. This is a classic little reggae album. This is can't read the tracks. This has got Natural Mystic on it, which I really like, and Jammin', we're jammin', and it's got the long version of Jammin' on it, which is cool, and it's got Punky Reggae Party on it, which I really like. Does it have? No, it's the other album I've got that's got the other song on it. Iron Like a Lion in Zion. I love that song. But this is a good album. It's a really good classic. Actually, I don't think I have that song on CD. So I might just be talking rubbish. Anyway, next we have Choke by Beautiful South. This I got from a charity shop, so it's a little bit watermarked and stuff. Again, I really like this band because they're just really unoffensive. It's really easy listening, pop, rock stuff, and it's enjoyable. It's fun to listen to because they quite often change the sound of the drums or the guitars depending on the song they're playing, which makes it really interesting. Next we have Amorica by the Black Crowes. This I also got from a charity shop. I'm just going to check the disc because if I'm not mistaken, this is the one. Yeah, when I got it I thought it wouldn't play because it had a huge scratch in it, but it does, which just goes to show you can't be too sure what will and won't play in a charity shop. I also like the slightly sort of rude, well, I wouldn't call it rude, but the funny little crotch shot on the front. That was obviously done to get a a reaction from people, wasn't it? I mean, because it's not a very good album cover other than to get a reaction. Next we have The Bravery, who are a nondescript pop band that I got from Poundland. I buy most of my stuff like this from Poundland because I'm never sure if I'm going to like it. It's always very hit and miss, and it's not my favourite thing anyway, but I quite like it because it's different to what my favourite stuff, and I like having lots of different stuff to listen to because I listen to music a lot, and yeah, it's just nice to have lots of different stuff to listen to. This is quite a good album though. It's by The Bravery and it's called The Bravery. I used to think it was called Log because it's got this little thing at the front, but it doesn't. Yeah, good little album. Next we have my Only Bad Brains album, Build a Nation. It's got some amazing bass playing on it. Natty Dreadlocks from Upon the Mountaintop is my favourite song on this. I actually prefer the reggae songs to the hardcore songs that they do, mostly because of the bass, but yeah, it's good. It's good. So I've never been sure which other ones to get. Next we have This Is Country Music by Brad Paisley. This is one of his really solid country music albums. It's probably his most country music album, except for the first one, of course. This has got Camouflage on it, which is my favourite song on this album. What other ones do I really like on this one? Toothbrush? Yeah. Old Alabama's okay as well. It's a good album. It's not as good as some of these others though. Next we have Burnin', The Wailers. Is this the one I was thinking of? No. But this is a good, not a bad one. It's not the album. When I bought it, it's not the one I was looking for, but I thought it was. The one I was thinking of was Catch a Fire, and I bought this one by mistake. But it's okay, because it's not bad. But it's not my favourite. I would much prefer to have got Catch a Fire. Next we have Birdie's debut album. This is, if I knew what it was, I wouldn't have bought it, if I'm really honest. It's basically a covers album, and yeah, it's alright. The only one that's actually any good is White Winter Hymnal. It's a bit pants, to be honest. Next we have Biotoxic Warfare, Lobotomized. These guys are an Italian thrash metal band. I bought it off the record company on Discogs, so they gave me a discount on all the albums that I bought from them. And there's a couple spread throughout my discography. I don't think I actually managed to listen to this one yet, so it's going on the listening pile. Next we have A Different Kind of Fix by, you guessed it, the Bombay Bicycle Club. Sorry, I saw a sticker on it and I thought, ooh. Yeah, this is a good album. This is like a proper album this time. And it also reminds me that I need to get their other albums because they're really cheap. So I'd like to try out their other albums. And I like the cover as well. It's slightly weird because they've got plant brains. Next we have the BBC Sessions by The Beautiful South, which I got cheap from a charity shop. Interestingly, it doesn't contain any of their hits, which is half the reason I bought it, because I thought, wow, normally if you do like a radio show, you're going to play your hits to sort of, and they didn't, and I thought, I wonder why. And it's actually really good because of that. So it kind of shows a different side of the band. Next we have Breaking Benjamin, We Are Not Alone. This is the album with So Cold and Rain on it. These guys are cool. They tend to write really chuggy, groovy, catchy riffs, and then have like, I'm going to say it, like Nickelback-esque vocals. Sort of that, gruff, type of singy voice to it, which gives it a sort of a grungy feel. I quite like it. It's definitely catchy, if nothing else. And groovy. It is groovy. It's like Godsmack, but a bit more safe in some ways. Next we have Breed 77, Cold Tora. These guys are, I think they're Gibraltar metal / hard rock band. Again, they're kind of like Breaking Benjamin, but they're with a Spanishy Latino flavour. I think they're from Gibraltar. I'll have to check. I really like this. I grew up with it. so that tends to help. Yeah, it's a good one. Next we have Play, the guitar album by Brad Paisley. Now, as you may or may not know, I'm not a huge fan of sort of entire albums of instrumental sort of widdly guitaring. I don't mind instrumental albums, but I prefer them to be sort of based around themed, like classical music. If you get like 70 minutes of someone just fret wanking a guitar, I find it really boring, and just rubbing your own trumpet, you know. And unfortunately, Brad Paisley felt the need to do just that, and he released this album. It's Saving Grace is the song Starter Band. The rest of it is just him playing and noodling on the guitar, and I'm like, what are you doing? And yeah, so I could have done without getting that album, to be honest. Next we have this Bob Dylan's debut album called Bob Dylan. It's got Peggy O on it, or Pretty Peggy O on it, I should say. And In My Time of Dying, Man of Constant Sorrow, Fixing to Die, House of the Rising Sun, which is obviously... Actually, did he write it? Well, I don't know, but I really like it because it's just him and his guitar, so it's really enjoyable for me to just listen to that. Next we have Blink-182's newest album, California. It's okay. It's not as good as their early albums, and it's a lot more whiny, and I feel sorry for any kids these days who buy this and don't get their older albums, because it's just not as good. But it's okay. It's not the worst thing ever, but it's just, I don't know, I can't help but feel that maybe they should just split up and stayed split up rather than trying to relive the glory days. Next we have Beartooth Aggressive, which is also on Red Bull Records. The headquarters of Red Bull is just down the road from where I live, which I find quite interesting. I've added their other album to my listening pile, so I'll give this one a miss, and if I like that one I'll give this one a second listen. But again, they're just, I don't know, there's something about them that just doesn't, nothing particularly stands out when I listen to them. So next we have this epic box set of Bauhaus. Now there's a story behind this. I get a lot of magazines and things and read up the lists that they have in them that are like the best albums of last year and the best albums of this year and best albums that every man should own and the best albums that everyone should own and things like that. And The Mask by Bauhaus kept on coming up in all these lists, and I thought, oh, okay, I'll give it a try. Because, you know, I thought, well, you know, if you're going to explore music, research helps, you know. I'm not getting magazines to tell me what to like, but it helps me discover stuff that I might otherwise miss. I thought, oh, I'll give The Mask a try. But when I looked for it, it was really expensive. And then I found this box set, which contains, as far as I can tell, the first 4 albums and a singles box set, which is basically their entire discography bar one album, for like the price, less than the price of one album. So I was dead impressed, and then I put The Mask on, and I was then equally dead impressed again. Although I was quite surprised. I thought there was going to be lots of keyboards and things on it because people said it was really gothic, but as it turns out, it's actually more just very dark music with guitars and things, and a saxophone, of course. But if you can find these box sets, they're really good. I've got another one, and there's a couple more that I might try and get at some point online. They're really good. That's going to have to go somewhere. There you go, like that. Next we have Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Great album, really crappy album cover. I wish they'd thought of a better album cover. Maybe a picture of a giant Iron Man at an electric funeral for electricity would have been far more better, with a paranoid war pig in the background. That would have been a far better album, rather than getting some dude to run out from behind a tree with a sword and whatever the flipping hell he's wearing. Looks like short jeans or something. So album cover is terrible, and if I was ever in a shop and somehow had never heard of Black Sabbath, I would have bypassed the album just based on the cover, because a lot of my purchases are based on covers. However, luckily for them, I knew that Electric Funeral, Iron Man, Planet Caravan, Paranoid and War Pigs, and Hand of Doom, and Fairies Wear Boots, which is pretty much the entire album bar one song, are epic songs, and so I bought it really cheap with the other 5 albums that I got. Yeah. Next we have Blue Oyster Cult. This one is Tyranny and Motivation. I always struggle to read it because it's got V's where there should be U's and things. This is pretty good. It's a really good album. This is a remastered version, so it contains a bunch of bonus tracks, mostly live versions of songs from the album, which is quite good. What can I say? Like a lot of bands are they from America? You know, yes, yeah, they are. I often find that during the 70s period, or the early 70s period, the bands from America tend to be more melodic than the bands from Britain. So, it says the American Black Sabbath. I have to agree with that, but it's much lighter, much more lighter. It's floatier. It's less more... Like Black Sabbath is like... If they covered it, it'd be like... sort of thing. It's a really bad impression. But hey, I got to talk about something, eh? So yeah, I often find that the bands from America during this early 70s period are more experimental in some ways. They're definitely more sort of jazz influenced. There's definitely... Like, Steely... oh crap, what are they called? Steely Dan. They're definitely more jazz inspired, and there's a lot more sort of melody going on. There's a lot more sort of... Whereas the 3 big bands, particularly Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath, guitars, bass and drums, and then just making a noise. It tends to be what they do. Next we have Hooray for Boobies by the Bloodhound Gang. The cover is on my Caravan, or was on my Caravan. I think I nicked this off my stepbrother. It's quite good, it's quite funny, but I actually think One Fist Beers Coaster is better, but I don't have it. That's the end of that one. Next we have Big Brother and the Holding Company, Cheap Thrills. This is such a good album. Janis Joplin is such a great singer, or she was until she died. RIP. She was awesome. All the good ones die really young. This has got Ball and Chain, Peace in My Heart, Summertime, combination of the 2, and then it's got a couple of bonus tracks on it as well. It's really good. Really, 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 really good. She's such a great musician, and I want to get some of Janis Joplin's solo stuff, because I don't have any. Itchy nose again. Right. Next we have Bolt Thrower, who are a British death metal band, who are very obviously inspired by Warhammer. This album is called Realm of Chaos, Slaves to Darkness, and it's really good. In fact, it would appear that they actually have some sort of endorsement from Games Workshop, or at least just permission to use the figures on their album cover. What can we say about them? They're probably one of the most legendary death metal bands from Britain. They're certainly one of the most popular and best. That's for sure. Certainly from Britain, anyway. They're epic, but this is the only album I have of them at the moment. Next we have this really good live album by the Bill Evans Trio. This is live at the Village Vanguard. Now, it's interesting because it has take 2 and take 1 on next to a lot of the songs. So I'm guessing it comes from a series of gigs recorded over a couple of days, and they took different songs from each night depending on which one they preferred. It is a trio, so we've just got Bill Evans on piano, Scott LaFaro on bass, and Paul Motian on drums. Jazz trios are my favourite. They're my favourite kind of setup for jazz. I find it very relaxing, but also deeply engaging. With quintets and things, I quite often get overwhelmed by all the horns and things, and it's good and everything, but everyone obviously wants to get their bit in, and sometimes it just I just prefer a trio. So the trio is my favourite sort of jazz setup. quite like jazz. I got into jazz quite late. I was 26 when I got my first jazz album. So I don't really know what I'm talking about when I talk about jazz. In fact, I don't know what I'm talking about when I talk about music, except my own opinions and what I like. So next we have one of my sort of pointless CDs now. This is back, the Brandon Bach. Sorry, excuse me, I'm hiccuping. The Brandenburg Concertos number 4, 5 and 6. The reason I say it's kind of pointless is because I have a massive box set of 160 CDs by Bach. Just in a huge box set, which I got from a charity shop for £8. And obviously it contains all of his work. However, these are Classic FM full works editions done on Deutsche Grammophon, which means they're really good, and these aren't. So I think the quality of this is better. So I actually prefer these. But I got these before I got the box set anyway, so that's why I still have them. I quite like classical music, but again, I'm only really just discovering classical music now, sort of. Right, next we have Between the Buried and Me's album Colours. This is the only time that I'm aware of, anyway, where I have one of the same album twice. But I don't count it in my... When I count my CDs, I don't count them as two separate ones. I count them as one whole. The reason I have to is because one of the discs is scratched and doesn't play. But I can't remember which one it is. And they look exactly the same and you can't really tell. So the only way I can really work it out is to play them. And I can't really be bothered. I'd rather just keep both copies. So I have 2 copies of Colours. This is a great album. What's so great about it? It's just really experimental, but it's consistently experimental. They try different things constantly, but it works. They do it in a way that actually works. It's not too disjointed and jarring, except for the occasional cowboy ragtime thing that goes on. But even that works really well. And then also it's got Viridian, which is a cool bass solo. Really nice bass solo. So that's cool. Next, we have Barren Earth, The Devil's Resolve. These guys are a cool prog death metal band. Quite a lot of melodic singing, and there is a bit of keyboards in it. Yeah, it's just really good, and it's also only 46 minutes long, which also helps. It means you can digest everything properly, and it's not overly long, so you don't have to keep listening and still not understanding it. It's just really good. So good, in fact, that I bought their new album, which is in here somewhere as well. Next up, we have Bloodwrath, The Hate Effect, which is one of the bands from the box set. They are a death metal band. Yeah, just bog standard death metal. Really heavy, really aggressive, and really, really heavy. Next, we have The Browning, Hypernova. These guys are what I believe is known as electroniccore, which is like metalcore, but with loads of keyboards and cyber effects and stuff. So I just call it metalcore, with electronic stuff and cyber effects and stuff. Quite like this. So much so I'm going to put it on my listening file, because I haven't listened to it in ages, and because of that I can't quite remember all that much about it. But I like it. Oh no, we've run out of space for my listening pile. I need a new pile. Where am I going to put my second listening pile? Here. Next we have Bleed From Within, Empire. These guys are from Scotland, and I got this... Actually, are they from Scotland? Well, they're from Britain anyway. I got this in that box set that I keep mentioning. They're a death metal band and they're heavy. That's pretty much definitely worth getting. More Byzantine or Byzantine. This is the album that is just called Byzantine. This was crowdfunded, and I thought I bought a new copy, but this actually was a second-hand copy, unfortunately, because I thought I was helping fund it, but I didn't really know what I was doing, and I somehow bought a second hand. I don't really know how I managed it, but I did. But I've got a copy, and that's all I care about really. It's really good as well. Yeah, get that in there. Then we have Bim Scala Bim, because any band called Bim Scala Bim needs to be owned by everybody. They're a ska band, started in the late 80s, I believe, and they're fun and good. Yeah, the only trouble is it doesn't come with an actual booklet, it just comes with a piece of paper. So there's no lyrics or anything like that. So I'm just wondering if this has been printed as well. Oh well, that's what happens when you buy second-hand CDs. Next we have Bellicle's Vessels, which at the time when I got it was their new album, and it actually came out the year that I got it. Again, really good riffs, really good drumming, really good bassing. It's just really good. I'm just going to make my CD play again because it's gone quiet. Next we have the Black Keys, El Camino. I first heard this in a group I used to go to called Moments in Wax, where everybody would sit down in a group and listen to an album on vinyl. This was the first one we ever listened to, and I thought it was really good. Really catchy, really fun, and just, you know, simple but good. A lot of the time simple is better than being overly complicated, and that is what they are. Next we have Brooks and Dunn, which I got from the library. They're a little country band. They're okay. They're not my favourite though. Next we have Brad Paisley. This is probably my favourite album by him actually. It's got Better Than This, Oh Love, Mr. Policeman, I'm Still a Guy, Letter to Me, Online, Ticks, All I Wanted Was a Car, If Love Was a Plane, and that's well over half the album. So it's really good. He just writes really good songs, and he's a really good guitar player. And other than his silly guitar music album where he just fret wanks all the time, he is tasteful as well. He doesn't just noodle all the time. So that's good. Right, up next we have Benga, Diary of an Afro Warrior. This is dubstep that is good, rather than that wob 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 stuff that became really popular. This is controlled and liquid funky in style. It's really minimalist and relaxing, and well worth owning. And also quite rare, I think. I'm not sure. Next we have Wild World by Bastille. These guys are cool. My nephew really likes them. I think they originally started off as a solo project by the guy called Dan, I think his name is. But they've since sort of morphed into a full band. They actually have a new album out, but I haven't got it. I don't like them that much. I'll buy their new album one day, like really cheap, because that's what I do. This is actually the 19 song deluxe super duper version, which my nephew was really jealous of because he's only got the normal version. So I might swap with him if it's in good condition. Maybe. Not really. Next we have, this is Bleeding Through, The Great Fire. This album sort of got released and instantly forgotten about, along with the band, who sort of released it and then died. I don't know if they broke up or disbanded or went on hiatus or whatever, but they released this and it didn't ever really make a show on anyone's radar, but it's actually really good. And this comes with a DVD as well. They kind of drop all the sort of black metal and death metal elements and go for a more melodic sound on this one, if I remember correctly. I should probably listen to it. I'm going to add it to my listening pile. Next we have the Bouncing Souls, Simplicity. This is, as the name suggests, really good and really simple, and fun. I think it's about 28 minutes long, and it's got 13 songs on it. My favourite song is Bees, because it's called Bees, and it's just Bouncing Souls to a T, really. It's just really good. Next we have Bim Scala Bim's most famous album, American Playhouse. This is a good ska album. 17 tracks of ska goodness. yeah, pretty much said everything I need to say about it within a sentence. Next we have Beth Orton, Central Reservation. She's really interesting. I got this from Poundland as well for £1. Is this the one? Yeah, it's got Central Reservation on it. Of course it has, it's the Central Reservation album. She's really interesting. I just like her. Her music's really good. It's relaxing. I actually did really well listening to this in the gym. I believe Beth Orton is the vocalist of Portishead, but I'm not sure. Next we have Sabbath Bloody Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Don't really know this album quite as well as their others. I think by this point the band really was beginning to unravel and sort of lose it quite a lot. It's only a couple of albums later that they got rid of Ozzy, possibly even only one album after this, maybe two, I don't really know. But it kind of begins to show in this album. It's not as good as their other albums, but it's okay. And yet this came out in 1973 as well, so they were quite short-lived, Black Sabbath, in some ways. They released like 4 or 5 albums in the space of about 3 years, and then everything just fell apart, it seems. Next we have Byzantine's The Release, To Release Is To Resolve. This is a really good album. All of Byzantine's albums are really good, but this is probably my second favourite. Just because Scold's Bridal and Justinian Code are great songs. It's also quite short, it's only 43 minutes long. Yeah, it's good. Where are we? Next we have Beardfish, Sleeping in Traffic Part 2. I think this is the one with the really long 30-minute song on it. These guys are cool, they're Swedish. They're like that neo-prog sound, so they've got lots of keyboards and lots of bass playing and stuff like that. And yeah, it's pretty good. I'm going to add that to my listening pile. Can you pause these things? No. Okay, you'll have to excuse me. Yeah, Mum, I would like a drink, please. Next we have Bowl Rider, Big Rock Mountain Highs. This came from that box set. I don't think I've ever actually listened to it. It came in the box set. It's not really... It's kind of... Yeah, I'm not really sure it's my sort of thing. I should give it a listen, really, but I don't know. Something about it is just really unappealing. So maybe I'm going to add it to my... listening pile. There we go. Blink-182, Dude Ranch. This has got Untitled on it, which is my favourite song from this album, along with Damn It, Boring and Pathetic. This is the last album with Scott Rayner in it before he was kicked out or left or whatever, and then they really became a great band. Their early albums are good, but they're not great. Next we have Black Tears, Child of the Storm. This is terrible. This is heavy metal done badly. It's really not good. And the album cover is very questionable in terms of all sorts of things, really. I'm not even sure they'd get away with that in this day and age. It's very suggestive, and that is a child. So I'm sure that wasn't the intention when they made the album, of course. But these days it's a bit like, ooh. And the actual songs are really... It's just not very... I didn't like it very much. And that's not a word I usually use with music very often, not liking something. But this just didn't cut it for me at all. A bit like Kiss. I know that's quite controversial, but I cannot stand Kiss. Next we have Brandenburg Concertos, number 1 to 3. Again, it's Deutsche Grammophon. I've just swallowed a peppercorn. Oh. Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Oh, when I made my lunch, I like black pepper, crushed black pepper, but sometimes you don't crush them properly, and they end up stuck in the bits of your teeth. And the next, we have Baby Metal by Baby Metal. I bought it because I was intrigued about the hype, and I quite like it. I don't really understand what's going on, but it's quite amusing, especially the Gimme Chocolate song. A lot of people hate them, a lot of people love them. I guess they're like Marmite. Please. Hot chocolate, please. My mum's offering me a drink. Sorry? Yes, please. Thank you. Gotta love your mum, eh? My mum is the best, because she's awesome. Next, we have my favourite Byzantine album. She's really supportive, my mum, and that's why I love her so much. This is my favourite Byzantine album, or Byzantine, again. I prefer to say Byzantine, I don't know why. This has got Justicia on it, Take Up Serpents. The album is called They Shall Take Up Serpents. This is Justicia is the song that goes like that, which is just a really bad example of what they sound like. This is a phenomenal album. I can't believe they're hardly known. They never get mentioned in metal groups that I'm on Facebook or anything like that. They're so criminally underrated. So everybody should buy at least this album. They're so good. They're just so good. We've got a lot to get through still, and it's gone on to 70 minutes, so bear with me. There's a lot to go. This next band is called Blood Red Throne, Union of Flesh and Machine. Just one, please. The first time I listened to it, I was like, what the hell is this? And to be fair, at the time I was a bit new to death metal, like proper death metal, and I was a bit taken aback and was like, oh, it's not really my thing. And then I didn't listen to it for ages, and then it came on when I was riding my bike, because when I ride my bike I have this big speaker on the back of it. It's my favourite time to listen to music, and it was really good. I really liked it, and I was annoying all the people I cycled past because it was really heavy and like raw, and they were like, oh, what's that? But that's not the reason I liked it. I liked it because the riffs are really good, really catchy breakdowns and things like that. Really good. I normally prefer more melody, but that was pretty good. Next we have Susie and the Banshees, The Scream. It's a bit of a weird album cover. I mostly got this because it's in all those magazines that I mentioned earlier, like the best of albums of the all time and things like that. And I quite like to try those albums to see what the hype is about and if I like them. But it's also a good way of trying out new stuff when you're not sure. If an album appears in more than one list that's written by more than one magazine that's owned by more than one corporation, such as Rolling Stone, you can be fairly sure that it must be quite good, and there's a higher chance that you'll like it. So that is why I look online a lot, all these lists, different people as well. You can go and rate your music and just look at everybody else's favourite albums of the last 20 million years and things like that. And quite often there'll be specific albums that appear in more than one of these lists. And you think, oh, okay, so there's something going on there. And that's where I tried this album and quite a number of other albums. And I like it. It's quite good. It's not quite what I thought it was going to be. It's very new wavy, but it's not as keyboardy as I thought it was going to be. Again, like Bauhaus, it's more guitar-y, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Long explanation there. This next one was a recommendation by my uncle, who is also a music nut, but he's 30 years older than me, so his music starts in the 50s, I guess, I don't really know, and ends sort of... Well, it's never really ended, but his favourite stuff is from the 70s, I guess, and it shows, you know. His favourite band is the Rolling Stones. He likes Tina Nog. He's got me into quite a lot of stuff like that. And he recommended this album. This is Blood Rock by Blood Rock. Go away, fly. It's okay. It's not the best thing he's ever recommended to me, but I quite like it. Got an itchy nose again. I think it was Timepiece or Double Cross that really caught my ear, but I can't remember. I might add this to my list, my listening pile. Next we have Byzantine, Oblivion Beckons. This is their second album, I think, or possibly their third. This is also really good. I mean, everything I've said about Byzantine I've already said, really. Get one of their albums. They're really good, and I promise you won't be disappointed. Next we have Band of Horses. Is that what they're called? Yeah, Band of Horses, Cease to Begin. Can't remember where I first heard it. I think I heard this on the internet or in a film or something like that. I thought, ooh, I quite like that. The lyrics are really repetitive, but it's really catchy. Really catchy. I was like, I need to get that. So I did. End of story. Next we have Bob Marley and the Wailers, Uprising. And my mum has got a hot chocolate for me. Thank you, Mum. Yeah, gonna have to put it there. That'll do, Tar. Just leave it there. It's fine, just leave it like that. Thank you. This is the album I thought had Iron Like a Zion and Lion in it, but it actually just has Zion Train on it. So I was a little bit disappointed because I obviously read it wrong. Yeah. Next we have Bastille's debut album, Bad Blood. I like the way all their albums look like movie posters, which is quite good. As a movie nut, that's quite cool. This has got Pompeii on it. Again, my nephew likes these guys more than I do. Daniel in the Den is quite good as well, I think. Yeah, not bad at all. Now we have Marooned by Barenaked Ladies. I've always got the feeling that this album was just released as like a stopgap. Nothing on it is particularly memorable or catchy or that great. I'm just going to stir my cup. I mean, it's not bad, but it's not like hugely brilliant either. Next we have Biffy Clyro, Only Revolutions. I bought this after I saw them live with the Foo Fighters, which I got into free because I was a steward to help people not get lost. It's obviously got mountains on it, but it's also got bubbles on it. Shock, Boom, Blast and Run. And it's just a really solid album. It's just good. Next we have Blackstone Cherry, Between the Devil and the Deep Blue Sea. This one's quite good. Blackstone Cherry have got some really good albums, and they've got some really naff albums. This one is a little bit more generic. Their problem is a bit like sort of Alter Bridge and bands like that. They tend to get a little bit. They obviously find it quite easy to just basically churn out songs and be like really generic and predictable and boring. And this album for me was a little bit like that. It was okay. If I remember correctly, it had a little bit of a sea theme to it. I think that's hence the cover and stuff. I can't remember. I've not listened to it too many times, so might add it to my list of listening piles, but not right now. Next we have Love and War by Brad Paisley. This is the one that features Timbaland a lot. He's obviously trying to popify his music up a little bit. Is this his latest album? Yes, this is his latest album. It's not bad actually. It's quite good. I quite like that he's experimenting and he always sort of tries new things, but within his original sort of country sound, which I think is quite a good way of sort of not rehashing your sound, but keeping yourself fresh, but without completely changing your sound. Although sometimes that is a really good thing to do as well, but not for Brad Paisley, I don't think. So it's not a bad album. just grabbing a bunch more albums. Oh, someone just beeped really loudly. Next we have the Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. I bought this from the library. It's okay. It's a bit fuzzy. I believe it's known as like fuzz rock or something. A bit like the band Subset. But I thought it was a bit nondescript and a bit sort of... everything just sort of melded into one giant song. So I'm quite glad I only got it from the library for like 25p. So that was quite handy, because I think I would have been a bit annoyed if I'd paid like full album price for it. Next we have Basement Jaxx Roots, another Poundland specific album. I bought it because I like the fact that it has a white gorilla on the front. I believe his name is actually Rootsy. Its album is actually called Rooty. It's Basement Jaxx. Sorry, it looked like it says Roots. I'm not very good at reading. Basement Jaxx are a cool little fun electronic dance band in the vein of Jamiroquai, who is also equally good. As can be told from the cover, they're fun. You know, nothing. It's just fun. Next we have a band called Bad Blood. Blood on the Dance Floor. This also came from that box set. I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever listened to it because it just looks like emo. Just doesn't look like my sort of thing. It's a bit after my time, as it were. I think I listened to it once, and it was a bit like, what? So I didn't carry on. Next I have Elefunk by the Black Eyed Peas. I don't know why, but I'm just going to look at the back and see if it's got any songs I recognise. No. I don't know where it came from or why I have it, but I do. So there you go. Next we have, I call it the Purple album because it's called Purple, by Baroness. Their new album is out. I haven't got it yet. It was more expensive than HMV, and I prefer to support HMV than Amazon. But I also didn't really want to pay £11.99 when it's only £8 on Amazon, so I'm waiting for the price to drop, hopefully. If it doesn't, I will just get it on Amazon in the end. But I have recently been buying more from HMV than I have from Amazon, which is good. But HMV obviously don't stock some of the stuff that I'm after, so I have to buy it on Amazon. It's fine. It's just I prefer to have a record shop that I can go to, and the only one is HMV, so I've got to help keep it afloat by buying CDs there, because otherwise I can't do my favourite hobby, which is CD browsing. So this is a good album, but I, ironically, for someone who prefers shorter albums, actually prefer Yellow and Green, which is the other album I have. I'd like to get Red and the Blue albums as well. Next we have Moonshine in the Trunk by Brad Paisley. This is another solid release. It's not my favourite. It's a little bit weaker. He tries a little bit too hard to be funny on this one, and some of the lyrics are a bit... But he's got the song Crushing It, and there's another one here that I know I really like. American Flag on the Moon is quite funny. And Cover Girl, I think it is, and Moonshine in the Trunk as well, are quite good. So it's not his best album, but it's by no means his worst or a particularly terrible album. But if you only collect like their best albums or specific ones, it wouldn't be one that I'd recommend. Next we have Runes by Bury Tomorrow. This band are interesting. They're a metalcore band, but without any of the singing, which I like from metalcore bands. So it's all the heavy stuff and none of the melodic stuff, and so it didn't really work for me. But the album is called Runes, but it is also overly long because it's got 3 bonus tracks, and it's like, oh, by the end of it I'm like, yes, come on, please just finish. Which is generally not a good sign for an album for me. Next we have Bad Religion, No Control, my favourite Bad Religion album. It's got rainbows on the front, which is cool, but also it's got, what's the song called? Big Bang. And a couple of others. It's a really short album and really fast. So it's good though. Next we have Intimacy by Bloc Party. I wasn't a huge fan of this, so I was quite pleased that I got it from Poundland. I appreciate that they're trying to, you know, do different things, and this one's a very electronic album. But for me, it didn't really work that well on this album. It just, I don't know, nothing was particularly catchy, and I thought they're better off sort of keeping the guitar and adding electronics into it rather than ditching the guitars entirely and being electronic. Next we have Ben Howard's other album. It doesn't have a track list on it, and I don't know this album quite so well, but it's Ben Howard, and he's pretty good. He's pretty consistent as well. You know what you're getting. So if you like his other album, then you'll like that. Next we have Beardfish's last album. This is the double disc. Is it double disc? Yes, this is the double disc deluxe version, digipack version, which contains the album, and then it contains a load of early years outtakes and demos, which is cool. This is my favourite album by them. It's got a really dark, depressing sound to it, but it's really nice as well. It's kind of beautifully sad. I think that's because it is their last album. The album is called Comfort Zone, or 4626 Comfort Zone. I also quite like the album cover as well, but it's definitely my favourite album by them. Right, have we got any more? We're running out of space to put stuff I've already shown you. There we have Between the Buried and Me's, The Silent Circus. This album is a little bit more straightforward metalcore or melodic death metal sort of stuff. It also has Agadaguguma on it, and it's pretty cool, but it's less proggy, but they are beginning to show their proggy side in it, which is cool. Next we have Bone Thugs and Harmony, The Art of War. I like this because they speak really, really, really fast, and it's like rhythmic, diddly doodly diddly doodly, and it's got bass and drums in it, which is cool. You know, it's just that, you know, yeah, groovy hip hop. It's not jazz inspired, I don't think, but I just like the way they talk really fast, rhythmically. It's almost like listening to a guitar chugging. I like that kind of thing. I have no idea what the lyrics are about. To me, it doesn't really matter. It's the music itself that I listen to. And this is a double album. I imagine it's probably gangster rap, but you know, it is what it is. It's all good. I like gangster rap. It's cool. Next we have Bullet for My Valentine's, Venom. This, I think, is actually a really good mix between their more commercial stuff and their earlier albums. I think it's a bit underrated, and by this point they'd kind of done the damage with Fever Fever and the other one, Temper Temper and Fever even, and so most of the people who were their fans who didn't like that stuff had left and gone, oh, this will be shit as well. But actually, it's pretty good. I like it. I guess that's all that matters in terms of me liking it. It's got Pariah and Venom on it. I haven't listened to it for a while actually, so I think The Harder the Heart is good. Harder It Breaks. Some of the lyrics are a bit whiny, like Harder the Heart, but it's actually quite a good song. Next we have The Greatest Hits by Barenaked Ladies. It's just a great album. I mean, any Greatest Hits is going to be a great album if you like the band, because it's going to contain all their most popular songs, which are the most popular songs because they're, generally speaking, their best songs because they're the most bought and most popular. So, you know, and this is what that is. It's really good. It's probably the best place to start with the Barenaked Ladies, actually. I've got so many albums in the B section. Next we have Big Bad Voodoo Daddy. I bought this because it was on Malcolm in the Middle. And I was like, ooh, I want more. They're a swing revival band. I think that's what it's known as. And it's just really good. It's like, you know, like the wolf in the back in the pinstripe suit. Except it's not pinstripe, but that kind of thing. You know, 1930s, 1920s style of... But it's got a punk thing to it as well. Next we have more Black Eyed Peas. I don't know where any of these come from. I've never listened to any of them. Maybe I should, but it's the Black Eyed Peas, and they're one of those bands where I'm like, ooh, maybe not. This is The Collection by Bob Dylan. My sister bought me this for Christmas. It's kind of a greatest hits album. It's a short one, rather than like his massive box sets of greatest hits. It's a short one, which I quite appreciated. It allowed me to explore some of his like later albums, like Lay Lady Lay, and stuff like that. So it's quite good. I'm quite glad she bought that for me. That said, I haven't actually bought any more of his albums yet. So, well, I've got a couple of others, but I mean, since them ones, I haven't. Next, we have Beardfish The Void. I was a bit disappointed in this. I thought it was quite boring. Yeah, I don't know. I just didn't enjoy it that much. Yeah, just didn't enjoy it, basically. Next, we have E1999 Eternal. Oh, Eternal 1999. Oh, I read it right the first time. Bone Thugs and Harmony. Again, I believe it's what's known as chopper style of rapping, where they just go flippity dibbity and then like flop and start from fast and slow talking. I think it's called chopper. I'm not sure. I don't really know that much about hip hop. Paid £1 for it, and I like it. That's pretty much all that matters. It's good. Next we have Beardfish Sleeping in Traffic Part 1. This has got more songs, but they're shorter. Again, they're on Inside Out Records. Inside Out Records tend to have a theme to the sound that a lot of their bands have, or they did at this period of time. It's very sort of symphonic prog, so lots of wishy-washy keyboards. Bass that doesn't really have that much bass within the bass sound, but it's deeper than the guitar. That might not make sense, but it does to me. And things like that. Well produced though, and it's good. It's good technical music. So when you're in the mood for something technical, you go for that sort of thing, or you go for this sort of thing. This is Dialogue by Bobby Hutcherson. He is a vibraphone player, which I thought was really intriguing, so I bought it. It's got Freddie Hubbard on trumpet, Joe Chambers on drums, Andrew Hill on piano, Richard Davis on bass, and Sam Rivers on tenor sax, soprano sax, bass clarinet and flute, and Bobby Hutcherson on vibes and marimba. I like it because it has vibes and marimba in it. It's quite a unique album instrument to hear in jazz. There's not many albums with that kind of instrumentation in it, so it's quite nice. Again though, it's not a trio, so it can get a little bit like, everybody wants to play a solo, and you know, that sort of thing. Next we have Beloved Enemy, Enemy Mine. These are a German industrial rock, industrial band. They're actually really good, but I haven't listened to it in quite a long time, so I can't really remember all that much about it. I just remember I did really like it, or do really like it. But it's not going on the listening pile, because I have listened to it many, many times. Next we have Bleeding Through. This is Love, This Is Murder. Bleeding Through are like a metalcore band, but they add like grindcore and black metal and death metal into that sound. Quite sort of unsubtly as well. There's lots of blast beating and things like that. I think they toned it down for this album a little bit. And I think they unfortunately went with the sort of emo-y looking sort of visual style, which I think is possibly why they didn't get quite as big as they could have done, or quite so. Like, this visual look made them not very popular in the underground, but they weren't quite melodic enough to be like really mainstream, so they kind of shot themselves in the foot a little bit. But they're actually a really good band, and they're definitely underrated. Next we have this classic album by Blondie. This is Parallel Lines. Again, I bought this magazine story that I mentioned earlier. Definitely impressed. Really like it. Baroness, Yellow and Green, or Green and Yellow. No, it's Yellow and Green. This has got Take My Bones Away, and numerous other really good songs. For the first time ever, I've kept the outside packaging. It's a double disc album. but actually it's quite short considering. I think each disc is about 40 minutes long, so it's not overly long. It's 80 minutes in total, so it's about the same length as like a Metallica album from the 90s, but better. It's definitely better. I think it's like sludge metal, I think they call it, or stoner metal or something like that. It's got that sort of vibe to it. I really like it. Next we have, what is it called? American Saturday Night, Brad Paisley. This is when he started changing and sort of becoming less country, like there's less country elements in it. Like his first couple of albums there was steel guitars and fiddles and things like that, and they're still in it, but they're sort of more subtle in it. He's starting to become more sort of poppy rocky with a country twinge rather than country with a rocky poppy twinge on this album. Now, that's not to say it's not good, it's just he's reversing the elements on it. Yeah, I mean there's still lots of fiddle and stuff in it, but it's less often. It's good though. It does have American Saturday Night on it, which is a cool song. Then we have the Spirit soundtrack, which I bought from the library. It's good. I mean, I like the Spirit film, so I wanted the soundtrack. Next we have this, which I bought because it intrigued me. It's called Boy Kill Boy, and the album is called Civilian. It's like an indie rock band that isn't on an indie label, I guess. There's a lot of these, I think they call it post-punk revival or something like that, where they're sort of indie bands that aren't on indie labels, so they just decided to call it post-punk revival instead. They got this sort of twangy, fake English accent thing going. It's that kind of band, which I didn't like when it first came out. I was very much like, "Ugh, what is that?" But it's grown on me. But it's a very hit and miss genre. You've got to be careful what you get. Some of it's awful and some of it's really good. I can never quite tell what is good and what isn't. Something like that, anyway. Next we have more Beth Orton. This is Trailer Park. This has got Sugar Boy on it. I bought it for £1. She's just a really good singer-songwriter. You just can't go wrong with her. She's great. Beyond Perception, The Final Descent, is from my box set. They're sort of a gothic-y metal band. It's good. Nothing wrong with it. Then we have Bad Company's debut album. I have all of their albums on vinyl, but this is the only one that I really like, so I got it on CD as well. I prefer 3, if I'm honest. The English Beat, unfortunately Rankin Rogers died fairly recently. He was cool. I actually prefer their new album though, which I also have in here somewhere. Although this is pretty good, but it's one of their older albums. Then we have Free the Bees by The Bees. I mean, they're sort of a cool little like pop band that I got from Poundland. They did record the whole album on analog equipment though, which is pretty cool, except for the fact that they then put it on a CD, which means, you know, it's lost to us because it's digital. But whatever, it's cool. Then we have The Brand New, who are a band that seem to be really popular in the underground, but I didn't really know anything about them. I don't know where the album even came from. I've never really listened to it, so I'm going to add it to my listening pile. Then we have Mammoth by Beardfish. I like Beardfish, they're cool. I bought this when I was going through the phase of completing discographies, I think, more than because they're my favourite band, but I do like them. Then we have Born on a Pirate Ship, which is another for promotional use only, like that 311 album. This is a good one. It's got Shoebox of Love, and The Old Apartment. But that, in terms of hits, is actually all it's got. But some of the other songs are really good as well. They just weren't like singles or hits. So I think it's slightly too long, with 14 songs on it, and they probably could have edited it a little bit. But it's good. It's good. And next we have Basement Jaxx, the singles, which is good when you just want the stuff that's really catchy. Right, where are we? Bet Zephyr are an Israeli, I think it's Israeli groove metal band. Really good. Really good. like you can really headbang to it. It's really good. You should definitely check them out. Fortunately, I think they got a little bit screwed over by like the label and the fact they're from Israel. I'm not really sure. Next we have Blood on the Tracks by Bob Dylan. One of his later albums, well, not later albums because he's still going now, but one of his electric albums, I think. Yeah, I don't think I've ever actually listened to this either, so I need to add that to my listening pile. Next we have Bad Religion, How Could Hell Be Any Worse. This is an interesting one because it contains that album and then like 3 EPs, so it's got 28 songs on it, and it's still only about 30 minutes long, which is hilarious. I really like Bad Religion, and I have a distinct lack of their music. Next we have the most country album by Brad Paisley, called Who Needs Pictures. This is his debut album. Is it his debut? Yeah, it is. It's got lots of banjos and things like that in it. Well, not that much banjo, but it's the most country sounding country album of his albums. Then we have Bell Witch. It's called Mirror Reaper. This is heavy. It's got the most growly growls I've ever heard in my life. It's really slow and ploddy, and it's a double disc, As Above and So Below. There's a story behind the album, but I don't know what it is, but that is a really cool cover. I wouldn't mind getting it on vinyl just for that, but I'm not paid of money, so I won't. Next we have more Bork Naga, Erd. This is the one where they started getting really melodic. It was released in 2012. They started almost getting rid of the black metal element of their music as well, almost. Next we have Time Well Wasted by Brad Paisley. This is probably my second favourite album of his. It's got Raining You, Waiting on a Woman, I'll Take You Back, She's Everything, Need a Man Around Here, and Out in the Parking Lot, which contains an Alan Jackson feature. That's not what... It features Alan Jackson, that's what I was trying to say. Next we have Byzantine's newest album, The Cicada Tree, or Cicada Tree. This is really cool. It's quite experimental, this album. They obviously were trying different things. And everything else I've already said about Love and Life. They're just great. But Between the Buried and Me's debut album, it's 42 minutes of really intense metalcore, mathcore type stuff. It's just really good. You should get it. Then we have Colours Live, which is the Colours album played in its entirety live. There's a DVD, which then contains that and then a bunch of other extra stuff. If you like the Colours album, you probably want to get it live as well because it's really good. Band of Horses. This is another of their albums, Mirage Rock. I didn't enjoy this one quite as much as the other one. It's not quite as catchy, but it's still pretty good. Next we have Boxcar Racer, which is a side project of Blink-182, Tom DeLonge and Travis Barker. It's quite good. It's a little bit more sort of emo-y, but I do like the song There Is, and a couple of others. One of them features Tim Armstrong, I think, so that's cool. Next we have this unbelievably heavy album by Benighted. The album is called Necrobreed. They're kind of death metal grindcore mixed together. It's really good. This was recommended to me by my friend Aaron. When he recommended it, I was very surprised because it's not really his sort of thing, but apparently this is. So I was like, okay. Next we have Boyzone by Request. It's a classic album now. If it isn't now, then it never will be. It's got No Matter What They Tell Us and a bunch of other ones. Yeah, I do actually listen to it quite often, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Next we have The Breeders, Last Splash. It has a strawberry heart on it, so yeah, these guys are cool. They're on the 4AD record label. I think it was mixed by Steve Albini. No, it wasn't. It was produced by Kim Deal. So they're related to the Pixies, who are a cool band, although I'm not a huge fan of Steve Albini's mixing work. He tends to put the bass like in the background somewhere with no bass on it. Well, every album I've listened to that he's produced has been like that anyway. Busta Rhymes, classic album, When Disaster Strikes. We like this big drums on this one, so that's cool. I really like the big drums. Next we have The Bunny the Bear. This is my favourite album by them. This is called If You Don't Have Anything Nice to Say... They're an electronic core, screamo, emo, rowdy metalcore band. The screaming is really good by Matthew Tybor, who I actually talk to on Facebook occasionally. And Chris Hooker, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He's got the most amazing voice. You could mistake him for a girl. He's got a really high pitched voice, but the songs are so catchy. Definitely worth checking this one out. Next we have classic Blink-182. This is now a classic album. So classic in fact that I got it for Christmas on vinyl. This is Take Off Your Pants and Jacket. I actually had this as a copy from the library for a long time, and I finally went out and got a proper actual real copy. I grew up with it from the age of about 14, 13. I love it. Never ever get bored of that album. Along with this album as well. This I actually bought from Poundland. It's my favourite Block Party album. It's got Hunting for Witches on it, among others. I really like the album cover. Next we have some Liquid Funk by Black Sun Empire, Cruel and Unusual. I quite like this style of drum and bass because it's really minimalistic. It's got really skippy drums and deep bass. Right, we're on the last legs. Oh no, we're not. We're almost on the last legs. Next we have Black Sabbath's last album, 13. The songs are good, but the production is terrible because it's really, really compressed and it's horrible. And it would have been better if Bill Ward had joined them on drums. So it's missing that jazzy element. But overall, it's not bad. It's good. It's good. Next we have Boba Flex, Tales from Dirttown. New metal. I believe this is a promotional copy because it's got a hole in the thingy, and you see that on promotional copies very often. But it doesn't have a promotional copy on the front. They're a groovy new metal band. Can't really say much more than that, really. Blossoms are a modern rock band. They're quite good, actually. They're quite fun. They're nothing special, particularly special anyway, but they are fun, and the songs are easy to listen to and sing along to. So, you know, it's pretty commercial. Next we have Kentucky by Blackstone Cherry. I didn't enjoy this. I thought it was really generic and really boring and overproduced, so I've only really listened to it once or twice. I might listen to it again at some point. Next we have Big Strike. These are a hard rock band from that box set. They're quite fun. The album is called Speed, Noise and Woman Love, which I always thought was quite funny. So they're kind of sleazy. It's not really my thing, but some of the songs are quite catchy, so, you know. Ow. I just got electrocuted. Next we have Bacteria. This album is called Defecate, Suffocate, Mutilate, Masturbate. They're a really gross band from a box set I bought. They got a song called Colostomy Hemorrhoids, which is hilarious. Shit in the Pussy, Shit Vomit, Enema Orgy. They're really gross, so I've only ever listened to it once, and I'll never listen to it again because it was really horrible. Bleak Angel are a really cool band. Think Lacuna Coil, early Lacuna Coil, so less of the metal and more of the goth. This came in that box set I've mentioned now a few times. The album is called Reborn. The band is called Bleak Angel. It's really nice. I'm going to add that to my listening pile, actually. Next we have Dan Tepfer and Ben Wendell, which is why it's in the B section. This is a jazz album, but it doesn't contain any drums, which I thought was a bit annoying. So I was a bit disappointed by it. I like drums in my jazz. Buffalo Springfield, classic album, again. I like that one. This my friend gave to me. It's called Blessed by a Broken Heart. Doesn't really appeal to me, to be honest. But it's okay. It's okay. Basement Jaxx, Crazy Itch Radio, I bought from Poundland. It's got a dog on it, and it's got a funky little cover that... does it move? Doesn't really move, but I always think it does. Good dance music. Good for parties. really underrated. Blackman Turner Overdrive's Not Fragile. Not Fragile is a great song. It's also got You Ain't Seen Nothing Wrong Yet, Freewheeling, Sledgehammer, Blue Moaning. It's a good album. I got it on vinyl as well. Slow down. You don't have to go that fast. Blink-182, Tom, Mark and Travis Show. Really funny. A really good live album. Really good live show. Would have liked to have been there. They play all their classic songs. I think they would have been better off actually waiting until they'd released Take Off Your Pants and Jacket and then done a live album, but hey ho, it's okay. It's also got like 40 hilarious snippet things afterwards, which are quite funny. I got a really itchy nose. Must be hay fever or something. Oh, this is my sister's. It's Blink-182, Blink-182. The front cover was on my Caravan. It's okay, but they lost all the hilarity and fun out of this album. It was really depressing and emo-y, and yet we still listen to it in the car loads of times, so we obviously liked it. This is my favourite Bare Naked Ladies proper studio album, Stunt. I don't really know why, it just is. And next we have Beyond Creation, technical death metal band. I think they're from France, but I'm not sure. But they do have a number of French songs on the back, so I think they are French or Canadian. They could be French-Canadian. I love the rendering of the album cover, and the actual music is really good as well. So, oh, get up there, you bastard. There we go. Hold on a minute. Right. Next up we have Bellowhead, Broadside. These guys are a folk band, or sea shanty band, kind of. They're good fun. Lots of funky instruments like accordions and things like that, so it's good. Brimir, this band is cool. They're a death metal band with songs about gods and things. One thing of note is that practically every song just contains constant blast beats, which I thought was quite interesting. Brain Drill, Quantum Catastrophe, some really, really technical playing on that. But it's only got 8 songs, and Quantum Catastrophe itself is like 36 minutes long, and it's like mostly just silence. Next we have Helicetaos, which is Burzum. They re-released them all in these funny little covers for some strange reason. It's like pure black metal, you know. It doesn't get much more black metal than that, really. Then we have this really cool album by Born of Osiris in a slipcase. This is Soul Sphere. I really like this album. It's like technical death metal. This is the one I think with like some keyboard stuff on it, which is really cool. And then we have Between the Buried and Me's Coma Ecliptic, which is probably my favourite album by them after Colours. I think it's really good. Then we have Bark, the Organ Works, which has got the Toccata in Fugue, which is his most famous thingy. Again, I've got a massive box set, but these are really good quality versions of that music. This is the heaviest Bleeding Through album, with blast beats and all sorts going on in it. It's almost like Benighted. It's really heavy. Billy Talent. This came out and everyone went wild for it because it's really good. They're a pop punk band with a little bit of a different guitar style to them. Then we have my favourite Beautiful South album, which I got from Poundland. My first introduction to them, apart from the song Rotterdam, which was on the radio when I was a kid a lot. The whole album is actually really good. Particularly Don't Marry Her. She's got some great bass playing on it. Next we have Blutengel, which means Blood Angel, I believe, in German. And the album Light Build. These guys are a dark wave band. I think that's what they call it. It's like electronic dance music that's dark and gothy and German. Light Build means light picture. something picture. Builder's Picture, I know that much, I think, anyway. My German's a bit rusty. Then we have Bad Wolves, Disobey. This is very much like Five Finger Death Punch style. To be honest, they're probably only that big because of Five Finger Death Punch having something to do with them being signed, I believe, or producing the album. I think Zoltan Bathory produced it. He found them, put them on his label, which is a subsidiary of whatever Five Finger Death Punch are on, I think. And then they covered Zombie. But the actual album is pretty good for more commercial metal anyway. A lot of people slag them off, you know, but I quite enjoy it. I think it's pretty good. Then we got Blondie's Greatest Hits, which is, you know, Greatest Hits album. Barren Earth, A Complex of Cages. This is their newest album. It's really good. They drop a lot of the proggy stuff and go for a more sort of straightforward, dark metal with singing and acoustic. I mean, there is prog in it, but it's they simplified it a bit to make it more accessible. I think it's actually more enjoyable as well. Bidding Through's latest album is actually really good. Cold World is my favourite song on it. The album is called Love Will Kill All, and I think it's really good. Then we have Bouncing Souls, The Hopeless Romantic. This has got Kid, Fight to Live, Bullying the Jukebox, 87, Hopeless Romantic, Wish Me Well, which we covered at college. My band at college covered it, and I had to sing all the bits, including the girl bits, which was hilarious. Love Bouncing Souls. It's probably my second favourite album by them. War of Dragons by Bloodbound. This is the double disc version as well. It's got the album, and on the bonus disc it's got loads of demos from this album and earlier albums which I don't own. It's a great album. They're really good at this power metal thing. Right, now we're on the last legs. We've got two littler piles to get through. I don't normally buy covers albums, but I did buy this one. This is the Anatomy of the Between the Buried and Me. They do a really good cover of Us and Them, and I just thought it'd be interesting to see what other stuff they like. Then we got this really good Black Label Society album, Mafia. I need another one of their albums, but I don't know which one, so if you can suggest one, that would be great. I really like this one. Just really good guitar playing. Then we have some Psychobilly, Batmobile, live at the Clubfoot. This is a really good live album. Little bit thin with the production. The bass doesn't come through too great, but I think it was recorded it was recorded in 1987, and I don't think it was a planned recording. But I really like it. It shows them off as a very lively band, and I'd like an actual album by them. Again, another album that I think they just released because they had to. Nothing on it is particularly great. This is Everything to Everyone by Bare Naked Ladies. It's okay. It's not great. Blackstone Cherry's debut album. It's got Rain Wizard on it, and Lonely Train. It's pretty good. Some really catchy riffs. Then we have Bewised, The Scorch of Rage. These guys are from that box set. The box set. They're alright. Sort of just regular metal, really. Then, I don't normally buy EPs, but this sort of felt like I had to buy it. It's the what is it called? The Parallax Hypersleep Dialogues. It's got everything to do with that other album that Between the Buried and Me released, so I bought it. Especially as it's almost as long as most albums anyway. So, yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. In fact, it's longer than some albums I possess. This is between Bullet for My Valentine's most thrashy album. It's got that song that goes shred on it. I originally bought this a long time ago on USB disc, on USB drive. It's a thing I think they were trying to bring out to replace CDs that ultimately flopped. I paid a horrendous amount of money for it. I think it was like £28 or £38 for it. Kept that USB bullet for so long, and then I lost it, and then I finally bought the actual album on CD, finally, a couple of years ago. Bruno Mars, Unorthodox Jukebox. This is a good little pop album. There's some good bass playing on it. It's not the album I thought it was when I bought it, but it was cheap, so it's okay. And it's quite enjoyable as well. It's Bloc Party Silent Alarm. This is a better version of their more electronic side. I like Helicopter, so that's cool. Bon Jovi, I bought it really cheap. I'm not a huge fan of Bon Jovi. There's nothing particularly wrong with him, but I just don't think he's really that great that he gets all that hype. You know, but that's just me. It's because he's so commercial and the songs are good, I guess. Brad Paisley's probably most country album. I love Come On Over Tonight and I'm Gonna Miss Her because it's really funny. This has got Blind Man on it. And some other really good songs, like Please Come In. Again though, Black Stone Cherry tend to be either really good or really boring. So, yeah. Drunk Enough to Dance is the album that came out before Hangover You Don't Deserve. It's got Punk Rock 101 on it. And I Don't Want to Rock and Girl All the Bad Guys Want, which is the song that kind of made them famous. I actually prefer the other album though. But this is still pretty good. I grew up with those albums, so I'm always going to like them. You know what I mean, like. Next we have Badly Drawn Boy. This is good acoustic stuff. Let me just grab the last bit of the pile and then we can finish off and it'll be done. Ooh, we've got Buddy Rich's Big Swing Face. I love this because it's a drum album. There's loads of different players on, so I'm not going to read them all. But Buddy Rich plays drums. That's pretty much all you need to know. And then you should buy it because he's amazing. Basement Jaxx, I call this the Owl album because it doesn't seem to have a name. Though it does say Scars. Again, good dance music. Blur, I'm not really a fan, so I don't know why I bought it, but it's £1. Billy Talent number 2, almost as good as their first album. A little bit more, I would say this one's actually slightly sort of more straightforward punk. But again, I really like pretty much every song on the album. But then I never bought number 3 and I've never caught up with them since. So I've only got 2 albums. Here we go. The Beat. This is a really, really good album. It's called The Beat featuring Ranking Roger Bounce. It's really catchy. Every song on it is just really catchy. And you should buy it in memory of Ranking Roger. It's really good. Alaska by Between the Road and Me is a really good album. This is when they first started adding the more proggy stuff to them. I think anyway. It's got Selkie's The Endless Obsession on it. And Laser Speed. Bone Mud is from that box set. They're a new metal band, groove metal band, whatever you want to call it. The album is called Tokoloshi. I think they're from somewhere in like Argentina or something like that. Then we have the Blue Tones, Return of the Last Chance Saloon. I think this is the one that's considered a classic album. It's okay. It's got quite a country pop sort of sound to it. Temper Temper by by Bullet for My Valentine is probably their second most commercial album. This got a lot of hate. I think it's okay though. It's definitely more of a hard rock album though. It's good though. Borknagar, Winter Thrice. I really love this album. It's so good. They get the right balance of melody and heaviness. Perhaps they could add just a little bit more growling and screeching and stuff. But generally speaking, it's really good. Next, we have a classic jazz album. Portrait in Jazz, Bill Evans Trio. The only trouble with this particular copy is it's Hallmark, which means it's not the best pressing of the album. So I wouldn't mind getting it again, but a more expensive version of it. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to have the same songs no matter what version. It's just they're slightly better. This is ripped from a record, I think, like an actual record copy. So it's slightly, but it's good. I like it. It's a good album, although it does say original recording on it, so not sure. This is Destined Solitaire by Beardfish, one of their earlier albums. It's quite hard to get hold of, I believe. It's very cool. End of. Mud on the Tires. This is a really good Brad Paisley album. You know, it's funny, it's cool. The only thing I don't like about it is the silly things he adds at the end. Like the Kung Pao Buckaroo thing. It just doesn't need to be on there. It just makes the album really long. What's this called? The Blackened Sky, Biffy Clyro. Some really good riffing and guitar playing on this. And in really interesting arrangements for songs. So you should check that one out if you like Biffy Clyro. Bad Religion, New Maps to Hell, of Hell. This is interesting because the drums seem to be drowned out on it, which were a bit annoying. But otherwise it was quite good. Not my favourite. I need to get some of their earlier albums. Bit more Bob Marley. This is from Poundland as well. I think this is a compilation album of stuff. Last really good Blackstone Cherry album, unless their newest one is good. I haven't got it until it's cheaper because Kentucky was awful, so I haven't bought the new one yet. This is really good though. It's got some really good songs on it, like Fiesta del Fuego. Classic Blink-182 album, love it. You can't go wrong. Everyone should own it. Enema of the State. I also have that on vinyl, and then also another classic album, Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Finished with the best in my B section, eh? I've got this on vinyl as well. So, there we go. That's been 2 hours of my B section in my CD collection. Thank you for watching. It's been fun to show you. I hope you enjoyed it. I try to keep it interesting and give you information about my CDs. It does dry out and hurt my throat after a while though. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe. I do music reviews and stuff as well. And Section C will come up within the next few days, hopefully. Thank you for watching. I've been Cubby. This has been a personal spin. This has been Section B of my entire CD collection.